Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Steve is not with us. He was out of town last night and wasn't going to be back till really late, so he's not going to be with us this morning.
Bus driver
But
Steve.
the rest of us are here, except for Bill. I'm not sure where Bill is. Oh, I do know where he is. He's in Thailand.
He's probably feeding the chickens and the ducks.
He has an excuse.
I think he's
He's in
probably
Thailand.
sleeping. Probably sleeping now. It's nighttime for Bill.
Yeah.
That's true. It is getting bedtime there.
Yeah. Let's see who.
Well, yeah, tell us who's here. Not show us
We
who's
got,
here. Just tell us who's here.
Bernard, BNH, BHS. That's JP, Floyd Robbins, Gerald Stewart, Grandpa Rails, Jeff Thornton, Lynn McCurdy, Michael McCarville, Messi Mason, Otter Creek, Paul Schweiger, Rob T-Man, Scott Baker, Steve Sherrill, Cheryl, Steve, and CB&Q, Mark Wigwag. Mark's been busy on his railroad. That looks about like it, I think, for now. I'm sure more people will pop in. Good morning, Jack.
Yeah, I noticed Mark had to put a repeat clip of him crawling under the layout again. It made my back start hurting again.
Yeah,
We're
man.
doing that, Mark.
Yeah. Well, it looks nice though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. I like those lights he's using.
yeah. Those lights are nice.
I've got those same lights. Yeah, I've got one full box that I haven't done anything with yet. But
I was using strip LEDs
Yeah,
up underneath mine, but I
Yeah.
guarantee you I would have switched and gone to those. I think had I kept it up.
yeah, that's absolutely what I plan on using for the
'Cause for the
balance when I get
cost.
around to it.
Yeah, for the cost, they were
yeah. You can't
maybe
be.
slightly more than strip LEDs, but not much.
They're easier to put up, and plus you don't have to worry about the adhesive falling.
Yeah, exactly. Because I did have that problem at times.
Yeah, those lights are.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark, you need to make a shorter friend to get under your layout for you.
Yeah, you want me to send you Ted?
That'll come over.
Yeah. He's probably older than both of us, but anyway, I know he's older than I am. So anyway, I don't know what we're going to talk about today. Oh,
either.
Dennis had a story.
Oh yeah,
Dennis has a wife story to tell. I'm
Well,
anxious to hear this.
we were talking in the green room before the show, and you could probably have a whole conversation about either how supportive or not supportive of the hobby your significant other is. And the wife hadn't. I made a comment because I was editing video like I do, and she always sits just to my left when I'm editing video. So she kind of keeps tabs on what's going on out here vicariously through the editing process. And I made the mention one evening that she hadn't been out here since Thanksgiving. And a lot, at that time had occurred because I believe I had everything except maybe one section painted. The backdrop, which none of that, I didn't even have, I can't remember whether I had the brown paper or not at Thanksgiving. I don't think I did. And she hadn't been out here since then. And I said something about that. She said, I've been out there. I don't think you have, sweetheart. No, I've been out there. And then so like the next day she came out, I hear the door. And so, I peek over all the peak foam and here she comes. And she's being overly dramatic at looking at every little thing. She's looking at the plywood on top of the, here. And then she comes around, she gets the time saver and she just being a huge smart ass. Right. then she comes around here. She finally gets to the area where I have painted the backdrop and she deliberately doesn't look at the backdrop. She spends her whole time, looking at everything I've already done, poking around, just being a complete smart ass. And finally she says, oh, she's wonderful. I am very thankful to have her She hasn't complained one time about anything I've ever done out here. The amount of time I've spent out here, I couldn't ask for anything more. Which, you know, not to get into anything dramatic, but kind of completely different than the starter wife.
Starter wife.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On top of which, she's a great cook. So
well, she is. Yeah,
I know that firsthand. Well, that's kind of like when we built the swimming pool. We were going to try and see if we could do it without the grandkids knowing. And they were over here every week. And we just had the blinds closed and left them closed. And of course it was during the cold part of the year and stuff. And, you know, a lot of times they didn't want to go out there. Well, it was coming up spring and they filled the pool while we were out of town. And the whole family was out of town for the 4th. So we come back after the 4th and we're going to go let them see it. And I'm outside filming it, and my grandson comes out and just stops and looks like he can't believe, you know, what's out there. And then my granddaughter, who hates being surprised, she cannot stand this. Don't surprise her with anything. She can't handle it. She walks out, sees the pool, turns right around and goes back in the house. And then they tried to argue about, oh, we've been out there, you know, since whenever we'd started the pool. No, you haven't. You haven't been out there. So that was a lot of fun. It was amazing we could get that because it was a 6-month, 8-month process.
Wow.
You know,
I can't
but,
believe you kept them away for that long.
well, they really had, unless we went out and played volleyball or cornhole or something like that, they never went out there.
That's
You
the
know,
kids.
there wasn't anything out there before except
how long did they? Because I know you haven't lived in that house forever. Did they grow up in that house, or?
They didn't really grow because they'll be 20 next month. Well, this month they'll be 20. We've been here 11 years now. We're starting on our 12th years. It will be this year.
Finish.
So at
Yeah.
least 10 years they
They were there
were-
5 years because the pool's about 5 years old.
Yeah.
Getting ready to be 6 years old.
So like 15, 14,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
2015 is when we put the pool in.
Well, you know, these
Yeah.
kids nowadays, they can be entertained inside. They don't have to go outside like we
They
did.
were like this on the phones the whole time. And that's what I told them. I said, no, you were had your head buried in your phone the whole time. You could have had the whole backyard on fire and they wouldn't have known.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But anyway, it was pretty good. But to your point where, you know, I've been out there. I've seen that since then. You know, realize how fast time goes sometimes
Mhm.
when you're not paying attention. But yeah, it's nice to have the wife acknowledge what you're doing and like it and not mind what you're doing. Brenda didn't mind me doing it because I was here all the time instead of out fishing or playing golf or, you know, being gone from the house for hours at a time.
Yeah.
So, or even when I was building airplanes and stuff, we'd go on a fly-in for a weekend. We'd be gone for a week, you know. So, and she never went with me for that kind of stuff because there wasn't anything for her to do that she was interested in. So, yeah, she was happy to have me here all the time. I don't know why, but anyway. So what are we talking about in chat here?
No, I didn't see that. Where was that at? Yeah.
For the third time.
Who are we talking about?
Yikes! Move south.
Yeah,
Who are we talking about here?
I don't know.
I don't know. Where did you see that, JP? Steve, what's up, Steve?
I agree with that. Shopping is not nice, especially at our age.
Mike, you're not shopping, you're a purse tree. If you go shopping with your wife, that's what you turn into, is a purse tree.
Well, you would think after the second time he would have learned not to build it under trees the third time.
Yeah.
Canfield.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I know
tree
they have
trimming
a-
service is probably cheaper than building replacement. I know that I need to trim a tree out here too, but every time I think about it, it kind of escapes me, and then I don't think about it again until the wind's blowing 40 mile an hour, and I'm like, ugh. I
Yeah,
don't think it would fall. I don't think it would fall on this building, but it might fall on my house. It might.
tree removal isn't cheap, man. It's kind of
I
hard.
know.
No,
It's
no,
hard to
it's not.
swallow that pill, and you definitely don't want to get some fly
Fly
by
by night operation.
to it because, yeah, I don't
Well,
care.
yeah,
Some,
the ice storm that they had in part of the country with this storm that came through. We had one of those back in 2009 here in Tulsa, and it looked like a war zone. I saw pictures of this one, and it brought back memories of that one that we had. And a month before that ice storm happened, we had a tree cut down for our daughter that had just moved back to town. They had a tree that was on the easement in the back. And as power companies will do, they'll come in and shave one side of the tree to keep it off the power lines, but they don't care what happens to the rest of the tree.
Right.
And that thing was starting to lean. And I said, and if it had fallen, it would have fallen on the kids' bedrooms. And I said, you got to get this, we got to get this out of here. So we had to take it out. It was a month later, we had that ice storm, and that tree would have been on top of that house, I know, because it was catastrophic. I really feel for anybody that had to go through that with this storm, because we were without power for, I don't know, 7, 8 days, something like that. And you couldn't hardly get down the street in a car on most of the streets in town. The trees were so bad. And of course, took power out for most of the city and everything else.
And was that like 2016, 2017, something like that?
Ours was 2009, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was bad because we weren't in this house yet. So it was before 2015, because we moved in here in 2015, and it's 2009. I'm pretty sure is when it was. But it was, yeah. I mean, it looked like a war zone. It was horrible. And I saw somebody posted a picture on Facebook, and I'm not saying it was somebody from this group, but I saw pictures somebody had posted, and I don't even know what part of the country where they were. I didn't read it or anything. I just saw the picture, but it was immediate flashback to that ice storm. So I'll take 3 feet of snow, 4 feet of snow anytime over an ice storm.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
It's just devastating what it does. Anyway, on a better related thing, what are we going to talk about?
You've made good progress on your layout. It's pretty much
Me?
going. Yeah.
Yeah. I posted it on the web on the Facebook
Is it
page.
fair to actually call it progress? Is that
Yeah.
Yeah,
Progress.
okay?
ever since Steve and Roy came and took the bridges out, that made it easier for me to get started on the rest of it. So yeah, I went pretty fast on all that. Yeah, progress, and it was there again, still bittersweet because I threw away a lot of track. I wasn't able to save very much of it.
Oh, really?
What did you
Yeah.
use for adhesive?
Sometimes it was like wood glue, which
Yeah.
don't ever do that because it tends to tarnish the rails really bad. Sometimes, most of the time it was caulking,
Oh,
which
really?
I found out I don't like that either.
Me either.
But
I'll
once
never
you
use
put
it again.
but once you put ballast down and you glue that down,
Yeah.
that makes it very tough to get up any track in any kind of condition.
It depends what you glue it down with.
Where
Yeah,
are you
well,
going with
I
that,
use the
Jerry?
diluted white glue. I use a diluted white glue, and or medium or something.
Dennis, I don't
So-
want to go there.
Huh?
I don't want to go there, Dennis.
But yeah, it's I was able to get very little of it up. I got some of the turnouts, some of the narrow gauge turnouts, and only a few of the standard gauge turnouts could I get up. The standard gauge turnouts I got was able to save were over in the staging yard that actually never got used, but it was not ballasted. The only thing I did back there was I painted it. I don't know why I bothered to paint them all, but I painted the track back there. So they're painted, but I was able to get them up. And of course, none of the turnouts did I glue down. The only glue holding those down would have been the ballast. So, and
Yeah.
I was careful with the ballast not to get it in the points and stuff. But
So keeping railroad deconstruction in mind, tick off some of the things that you would absolutely not do again while constructing a railroad of similar size and scope. What did you learn about bench work? Whatever it is that you would, I would not do it this way again.
I wouldn't hand lay track. I would build my own turnouts, but I wouldn't hand lay track. Not that the hand lay track was hard to get up. It just takes too much time for what it ends up looking like. It doesn't look, unless you're doing a diorama where everybody's concentration is going to be in a 2-foot space.
I don't know, man. Those Proto 48 people were pretty crazy.
Well, they are, and that's
And
fine.
it does look good. Yeah.
Cool.
And they've got their whole niche. But I'm talking about the mainstream of modelers. It was fun to do, and that's why I did it, because I had seen it years ago and wanted to try it, and it was fun. But the spikes and stuff aren't cheap. They bend easy on you. All that kind. It can be a hassle.
So what are the don'ts in this hobby? Don't use or don't do.
Well, I wouldn't hand lay again. Don't use yellow wood glue for laying track. Like I was using Type Bond 3 in some places.
Especially if you're gluing it to wood.
Well, I glued it to cork, but still, it wasn't the fact. It wasn't the glue. Well, it wasn't the gluing it down.
Yeah.
It was what the glue did to the rail.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because it would, I'm not sure what it is in the glue.
Yeah.
But something in there reacts with that nickel silver and it will tarnish it.
Right.
And I would clean the top of it and come back the next day and be tarnished again.
Right.
So for that reason, I wouldn't use it again.
I like the way Mark thinks.
That's supposed to.
Yeah. But yeah, that would be the number one thing I won't do again is use yellow glue for putting track down. I probably won't go with cork road bed as far as individual strips like you get from Midwest or somebody.
Yeah.
I like the sheet cork better for narrow gauge.
Right.
For somebody doing mainline railroading with standard gauge, that stuff's great because it looks like a well maintained mainline roadbed. The narrow gauge didn't have any of that. The narrow gauge was laid in the dirt a lot of times. So using sheet cork and just putting a little bit of ballast down looked much more realistic to me for what the real narrow gauge is. So I won't use road, mainline cork anymore. I will limit the amount of hidden track, which I did on my original layout too, but there were still some places like under the long steel bridge against the wall that I had, the standard gauge went under that whole wall in a hidden track area. Now I had made concessions from underneath that I could get my hands up in there, but still that required you getting underneath the layout. So I won't do anything where I have to get under the layout anymore either. Now doesn't apply to everybody, but everybody knows the vast majority of this hobby are people that are older or, are getting there rapidly. And your body's just not going to be able to get down there comfortably. Isn't that right, Mark?
Yeah, don't think about, today in this
Yeah,
hobby. Think about
exactly.
5 years
Think about
from
several
now.
years down the road.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's why this next one I do is going to be smaller.
yeah.
Um, it's going to be able to go through the door. I've got a 3 foot door um, that I can go out into the garage with from my shop. So it will be able to fit through there. It won't be any higher than 3 feet. In fact, it probably won't be but 30 inches at the maximum height. Um, so I can get it through, not counting legs, but so I can turn it up and get it through the door and somebody can take the whole thing in one piece and I don't have to tear it up again. So that's the main goal on this one. The
But
rest of it,
even if you wanted to take it up, it's easier to do.
sure, yeah. If it wanted to get move locations, it's going to be. They'll make it where it's very easy. You'll just unbolt the legs.
Yeah,
You know, I'm planning on two sections, somewhere around 4x8. 4x7, something close to that. That I can either plug together. Well, it won't go end to end. It might do this and go together, kind of like what Bill had done. But in my head, I'm thinking I would be able to wheel them together and put a piece in between, just a connecting piece to go from one side to the other. Um, that's kind of my main thought. But until I get to that point, which I've still got some more cleaning upstairs to do, but there you go. That's people been asking me what my track plan is going to be, and I don't know yet. It'll be much smaller. I don't plan on using any tortoises. So you know, I won't be using any of the touch toggles or any of that thing that I know of, unless something comes up where I think, oh, well, that would work for that. Um, I won't be using any tortoises, but I wouldn't say that's something not to use. That's just something I'm not going to use. I'm going to stay with all manual control. Probably not ground throws. I'll probably do fascia hand controls, where you just push and pull. Um, do something like that. But anyway, I'm gonna try and keep it relatively simple as far as the wiring and stuff. So the most wiring is going to be uh, obviously drops from the track to the main bus, um, and then any kind of lighting wiring. Lighting wiring can be a real pain in the butt because it's the wires are always so small from your LEDs. But that's pretty much it. Everything else is a wash. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to worry about making it where I can pull the track back off. If I had to, I'm not worrying about that. Because there again, if you're going to put any kind of ballast down or any kind of ground cover around it and you glue it down, it's going to affect the track and you're not going to get the track off in
yeah.
good shape.
There's some things in the hobby that are kind of like a throwaway.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
they
like
almost have to be. Yeah,
you're not going to collect all the ballast and save it, okay?
yeah.
No, but you can collect the track
Yeah,
if
you can.
You can
Yeah.
if it comes off easy. Yeah, and I kept some of it,
yeah.
but even the
Alcohol
track.
does amazing things to certain kinds of glue.
Yeah, I mean,
That.
like in your case, Dennis, your layout is so big. There's so much track. In my layout, there ain't that much track. If I had to throw it away, no big deal, right?
Well, even the flex track in the staging yard, I was going to save some of that, and I did save some of the long sections of it. But because I had painted the rail with just rattle can paint, I didn't glue it down. I pinned it down. But once I got the pins out of it, yeah, it came up okay. But now it doesn't want to bend. It's micro engineering, and you know how
Yeah.
small those spikes are on
Yeah.
their flex track, and because the paint's on there, it doesn't want to flex back. So it kind of was kind of a wash. I only kept the first two pieces that I took off, and I just pulled the rest of it up because wasn't going to be usable. And plus, I wasn't using standard gauge, so I wasn't going to pawn that off on somebody to use because it just wasn't worth.
I got a bunch of used Flex Track off of eBay once, paid next to nothing for like a whole box. And it was in various stages of usability. There was there was a few new pieces. There
Yeah.
was some that had been terribly painted.
Yeah.
And then there was some that had ballast still all over them. I soaked them down with alcohol, and I have been able to make use of, like, some of it was code 40. So some of my sidings, I have used code 40 that was weathered that was used. Alcohol is your friend with a lot of mediums that we make use of in the hobby. And if you choose mediums that alcohol readily softens, you're more likely to be able to make use of it again if that matters to you. Even the yellow glue, it doesn't dissolve in alcohol like some stuff does, but it softens up for sure and kind of turns into a rubbery thing that you can probably, if you're careful enough, pull things up off of it. But I wouldn't use. So what I did that I would never do, if we're talking about things that we wouldn't do again, I used caulk for everything up to frying pan. Would not advise anyone to ever use any kind of caulking to lay track again. That's probably the one thing that comes to mind that I would not do that again. So I've had to go back in, and I have used yellow glue, which again I would not use ever again, to lay track. And everything else,
So on that note, I used silicone to put my track down sparingly in spots on Homosote. And when I wanted to change some things, it came off easy.
Yeah, off a Homosote it's going to. Even with glue, now whatever you used is going to be stuck to your track, not to the Homosote.
Right.
You're going to rip the Homosote up is what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's
it'll come off, but you still got a cleaning job to do on the track.
Yeah, that's what I basically did. Like, I had to repair some of the Homosote in some spots because it pulled that up, but it came off. I mean, here's the thing, right? Don't use a whole tube of whatever on laying your track. Your track doesn't need to be totally covered to be glued down. Just do spots and you'll be good, because then your ballast is going to glue everything down.
The best thing I found for putting track down on Homosote are the Pico track pins.
Track pins.
They're longer. They're very sharp. Don't poke yourself with them.
But what about, like, with me, because I used Masonite spline, you're not putting a track nail through that. So you're going to have to use an adhesive of some kind.
So,
yeah. Unless you'd used a Homosote on top of it. And I'm talking strictly for Homosote. If you use Homosote, it takes those pins readily and it holds them, but they come out. If you want to pull them out, they come out pretty easy. Not really easy, but they come out easy enough you're not going to tear your track up.
Yeah.
So now I did the same thing on my end scale. I used silicone to glue my track down to foam. And I did a test of, using silicone, glue, a couple different types of glue. And they all came up, but silicone came up the easiest from foam. The rigid foam, not the little holy foams, but silicone. Silicone, not caulk.
Not outdoor caulk. Latex caulk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
but the pins work really good on the Homosote. I would think that pins would work good on foam. I don't know, because I've not used that much foam.
Yeah,
or actually laid track on the foam. If all the foam I've used has been in landscape stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the pins would do there, but they hold. In the Homosote, you can put pretty much anything you want in there.
Yeah,
you can use regular spiking spikes for it, and they would hold.
I kind of think they would hold better in Homosote than they would in foam. I've never did it, but there's not much to grip in the foam,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I wish I could get Homosote and there used to be a company that made it in a flexible road bed where you could actually bend it like you do Flex Track.
Oh, really?
There was a company, yeah, somewhere on the West Coast.
I've still got some of that. I didn't like it.
Oh,
Did you
really?
not like it?
Mm-mm.
Because I always thought that was the worst thing about Homosote. It wasn't the mess and cutting it. It was the fact that any kind of curve, you had to cut it to a curve. And there's a lot of waste there.
What's that flexible Homosote like? Are there like relief cuts in it or something?
Yeah.
I cut some on my bandsaw
I never
to
know they made
turn.
that.
Yeah, and all I did was just you make little relief slots in it so that you can curve it some. And I actually used that on the lower lube of my standard gauge and under the helix. And it worked well, but it was time consuming to make, to do it, plus the mess it makes. But
Yeah.
I like it as a road bed. And of course they've been using it for years and years. 'Cause
Yeah.
I used to hear about it and
Yeah.
my railroader and think, what the hell is Homosote? Of course, I was still a kid, I had no
Yeah.
clue.
I'm really happy that I used Homosote on my switching layout, and I would use it again.
If I was going to do a completely flat layout,
Yeah,
I would
right.
definitely use Homosote again.
That's what it
I'd
is.
use that. I wouldn't bother with plywood. I'd have the frame,
Oh.
set the Homosote right on the frame and go to town.
All I did, there's no plywood on my end. It's just a frame and the Homosote on top of it.
Okay, Roy says if you use pins and foam, you'll need some lube too, unless you don't do a lot of modeling. Pinholes will loosen up. Yeah, well, I kind of figured it probably would.
How thick is that?
Hang on a minute.
Quarter inch?
I think that's a 1/4 inch.
Oh, that's different. That's crazy. I've never seen something like that.
Yeah, the Homosote I used was wasn't half inch.
It's a scale almost 2 feet. So it's pretty high, which is one of the reasons why I didn't like it.
Right, it's too thick for you.
Yeah, it's a 1/4 inch, and I used it on the time saver, and then after I got it installed, like what Claude was saying earlier, the narrow gauge they didn't use machinery to create a perfect roadbed profile or necessarily even build it up. I'm in places where they had to, they did. But if they could get away with just throwing their ties on the ground, that's what they did.
They threw them on the ground, and then if they put any ballast in it, it just went between the ties right there on the ground.
Yeah. And it was probably something that they, borrowed from the ditch next to it. That's why they call them bar ditches.
Or got from blowing the cuts or the tunnels.
Right.
Well, you saw it when you're getting close to Rock Tunnel on the Cumberson Toltec. The cliff just before you get to the tunnel, that's all that is you can tell that's what it is the rock they took out of that tunnel and out of that cut is all the roadbed right there. But when you see the tracks, like if you go to Chama or Durango, not so much, because Durango was a much bigger yard. But you go to Chama and the tracks are laying right down in the dirt. There's no real roadbed other than they leveled it out somewhat and then they laid it in the dirt.
Right.
And that's why you get this in the tracks going down a long stretch.
Yeah. I've got in one of those pictures, I have a frying pan, and it was even a standard gauge. There's 3 tracks that curve around, just like they do on my layout. You can't hardly see a tie one in any of that. It's just, 6 railheads sticking up going around in the curve.
Yeah. I saw a really good I should have saved the link to put on the show. It was on YouTube. It was a Rio Grande Southern number 20 engine. I'm sure it's like a C16 or something because it's pulling 3 or 4 passenger cars and a caboose coming back from Silverton on the High Line, and it's chugging like hell trying to make that little mild grade right there on the High Line. I can't imagine what it was like on the regular Rio Grande Southern, because I know their grades had to be a lot steeper than that.
Hmm. Well, they're probably
But if you
double
want
headed.
to, yeah, if you look that up, it's interesting, and you can see the roadbed there too. There's a good shot of the roadbed right there on that cliff of the High Line, and that's all it is just whatever they cut out of the mountain. They just dropped right there and laid the tracks, laid it in between the tracks. But yeah, Homosote is definitely what I would use if I was going straight flat. Say like Bill's HO layout, I would have used Homosote on that. Having to do it again, that's all I would use. And I've seen people use, plywood base and then lay Homosote on it. And I did a little bit of both on mine that I just tore out. And you couldn't tell if I had plywood under it or not, except when it came to putting in tortoises. Now on the tortoises that I put on the staging yard that was all Homosote, I cut a little piece of plywood that I glued to the Homosote so that I knew the screws would hold the plywood,
Yeah.
and that worked fine. They may have worked just fine had I used, screws as long as the Homosote was thick. It probably would have helped work just as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really not a lot of movement on it.
Movement. Yeah. It's not like you're, doing it for support or anything. It's not like structural.
Yeah.
But yeah, Homosote's hard to find. Not every place, you can't get it everywhere.
What is Upson board?
Upson board? Where'd you see that at?
Well, that's what Mark said he used years ago.
Gypsum board?
I've heard of that.
So I guess it could have been a typo, but
I don't know. What is it?
Mark's a typo.
Maybe it's something fancy that he could get.
Yeah. Upson
Explain
board.
to us, Mark. What's it closest
I'm
to?
going to consult with the machine and put it in and see what it says.
Layered paper board. No, he was right. Upson board's the proper name for it. I've heard of it before. Layered paper board.
Do they still make it?
Well, Upson board. That would be very close to what Homosote is.
Upson board is a brand name type of medium density fiber board made from recycled wood fibers, used historically as wallboard, paneling, and other things like display boards and art supports. It is lightweight, relatively strong, and often identifiable by characteristically blue center layer in its cross section in many of its building panel forms.
So is it kind of like masonry?
No, it wouldn't be that hard.
Oh, okay.
Wouldn't be that hard. But you can even use something else. You can use are ceiling panel layers. I used some of that in one section where I just flipped it upside down and used the back side of it to lay the track on. It's very, very close to what Homosote without being quite as dense as Homosote, but it's done the same way as Homosote as far as it's a paper product too.
Compressed, yeah.
Yeah. Silatex. He tried Silatex once, not good. No, I wouldn't use Silatex.
I used something on my very first railroad that was, I can't remember what it was, but it was very fibrous. So I went in and asked for Homosote, the lumber yard, and they're like, "What?" And I explained it to him. I said, "Well, we've got this stuff that would probably be similar." And I thought, "Okay, I'll try that." And I mean, it was okay, but the fibers were longer, stringier, and if you needed to drill a hole in it, it ripped more than you could drill. And I decided then I would never use that stuff again. I don't remember what it was though.
Well, one thing that I saw from the heck was this channel? I haven't seen him. I haven't seen any of his videos in a long time. Anyway, he used the ceiling panels and took them and broke them and then stacked them for
I
a
saw
riverbank
that, yeah.
or for rock strata.
I believe
And, you know,
that
those-
was Dawn on the nearly historical
Yeah,
Oh,
near
yeah,
the historical,
railroad.
yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't
So it
do
was.
videos anymore.
No, I haven't seen anything from him in a long time.
Yeah.
But it worked really good for that, and work in the application that he used it in. And then all you got to do there is just paint it because it would look really good without having to do all. And it would give you rock strata. And if you wanted to tilt it, all you'd have to do is prop it up on one side and you get a tilted rock strata. Friend of mine, no, not Mark. There's no problems with expansion. Sounds pretty but lays it. Man, I understand the no contraction and expansion, but I would not use sheetrock for a layout.
Good morning, Dave.
Morning, Dave. I
would
think it would
not use
depend on
sheetrock.
I mean, if you were just going to lay stuff right on top of it.
If you weren't going to drill a hole through it or cut through it, yeah, fine. But you know how messy Homestead is. And it's drywall's worse than that. Because drywall gets really powdery. Dave Owsley has one friend, and he's married to her, right?
Since the 60s.
For rock formation since the late '60s. Yeah, Steve, it does. It works really good.
I have
And
to go.
I'd never thought about it until I saw Don do it on his, and I thought, oh, that's a good idea. And I never had a spot that I thought it would look good on mine, so I didn't ever use
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you'd have to kind of have some intentionality of what you wanted to do where
Mhm.
with it to make use of it. Because I've thought the same thing several times. Where would I do that at on my railroad? And I haven't really come up with a place where I thought it would be appropriate.
Does it have a look that only
You could get the same look with a wire brush on foam by just
Mhm.
destroying the foam with your wire brush.
so
Very similar look.
it might not apply for somebody that's trying to model certain types of rocks or something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Because you got to keep your geology in mind when you're doing rock work. If you get the wrong geology and the wrong color with the geology,
somebody will
YouTube
call
will
you out.
let you know.
Yeah. Somebody will call you out. You got that?
They're going to tell you you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, you can count on it.
Well, one thing about the acoustic board, the ceiling panel board, is you don't want to get too much water on it because it will soak the water up and swell.
Yeah.
Where
But if it's well
homosote, it
supported,
will
the
do
swell,
that
who knows,
too.
the swelling might be nice.
Well, it might be. Homosote might do it a little bit, but not nearly as much. In fact, I've painted homosote and you can't tell it does anything to it. So
I painted mine, so it didn't do anything to it.
yeah, get a different look. Yeah, well, that's true. You get the strata going vertically.
Yeah, your layout will look different than everybody else's, and that's fine.
Yep. You know, another thing, I've never seen a model railroader model in like a rock cut or the drill marks where they drilled down to blast it out. And you go on a highway nowadays, you go through Colorado especially, where you can see where they drilled the holes vertically down,
Yeah,
put the blasting powder in or dynamite down in to blow it off.
right.
And that would be an interesting deal, especially in a small area.
Yeah.
That's starting action at the beginning. Shows. Oh, 2008. Okay. Yeah, well, you know, I'm old. I forget.
Yeah.
You know, Pebble Pimp stuff. Oh, that's good. Okay, Roy's asking, do you?
No,
Oh, I can't remember. Have you used your pink or blue foam vertical, but using the edge as the facing out? So stack them, but turn 90 degrees.
I'm still debating right now because this has been an experiment. I explained kind of my whole thought process about this area in a future video that hasn't come out yet. I started here because it's literally the last thing you're going to see when you come into the railroad room, right? This should block most of you. You might catch it out of the corner of your eye, but hopefully there'll be other things you see. So my experimentation in this area is by design to find out what I like, what I don't like, things like that. And I've proven that I can match the color on foam and plaster Paris, right? With the Sculptamold. I can get nearly identical colors next to each other. That was the big experiment I wanted. The question now is, what do I want this going around to look like? And do I prefer what I can do with Sculptamold over what I can do with foam? And I would say the jury is still out on that right now, but I mentioned a long time ago in a video that's already out that I'm definitely going to do something different with the pancake stack that I've got right now over here. I know a lot of people are worried about the pancake stack, right? I get it. Don't worry about it. I will take care of it somehow, some way, eventually. and you know, I've watched Bill's videos. I know that you can cut those and set them up. Because I have in my mind what I want the area to look like, I don't see the on edge leaning over at 7 degrees as the specific geology
Right.
that I see in my mind going around. That's not what I see. So therefore, stacking them up on their end to me I would have the same problem, only would be standing up instead of laying down.
So, like, Dennis, are you copying an area? Like, do you have photos?
I have got specific photos that I've shared that I am wanting. Again, when I view a model railroad, I view it as an impressionistic form of art.
Yeah.
I have a subject in mind that I'm using as inspiration, but not trying to recreate to perfection, right? I want to create an impression of that area. So when I see, and it's, I can't remember, I think Claude just mentioned a minute ago with the number 20 going up, you know, there's a specific area there that you see on YouTube all the time with the Durango. It's either the Durango and Silverton or Cumbers and Tulsa. I can't remember which. That's my inspiration area. So if I were to put all of my foam pieces standing upright and leaning over, that doesn't represent the area anymore. In fact, I think it represents the area less than the pancake stacks. What I think would work best for me is to take them and moving up like this and then stack the layers this way, so that when you carve into them, you come into a new layer that's further back and you've got your layers in succession this way. I think that would be the smarter way of trying to reproduce what I want. So you have long, thin slices stacked this way instead of either this way or that way, if that makes sense.
It makes sense to you.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm the only one that has to be pleased by it.
There you go.
I mean, it don't make sense to me, but it makes sense to you, and that's all that matters.
Right.
Yep. What were they talking about here? Oh, struggles with color consistency if you stop and come back later. Part of that is if you're diluting your paint at all, or your medium that you're using the color, if you're diluting that, you're probably not getting it diluted at the same way that you did before. But also when you've got dry paint here and you're putting wet paint on, even if you don't dilute it, it's going to look different until this new one dries for sure. But that's where you take and if we're talking rocks and stuff, you can always come back and brush back over the top a little bit, almost like a dry brush over what you did before to kind of help blend that together. At least that's what I do. Say that you stir stiff it in enough for bless our concrete values, regulations. Or what are we talking about stacking?
Well, I think I understand what he's saying. That's a whole nother thing, you know, is being able to either accurately represent what's going on up here verbally or interpret what somebody else says, you know, through tippity typing and them conveying what they see. And they're, you know, it's a thing.
It's lost in the interpretation.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sometimes when somebody's got a vision that they're trying to explain to somebody else, it doesn't always come across like the person intends it to. And so the other person gets a different idea and they're going, wait a minute, that's not going to work, you know? Well, yeah, unless you know exactly what they're thinking, you know.
So different in downgrading your effort. It's difficult to separate the two levels.
Downgrading your
I don't understand that, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he means by downgrading your effort either. It's difficult to separate the two levels.
I think if you have a process and you keep continuing that process, you can just.
Yeah, which is what I'm trying to do here. And,
Right.
you know, in the video that's, I don't know if I talked about it last week, but there's a much bigger difference between burnt umber and raw umber than one might think.
Yeah, huge difference.
Yeah, because I've got a burnt umber wash and a raw umber wash, and they really don't look alike, but I'm going to make it work somehow.
Yeah.
Let's say he's doing a den, had some broken tiles, had some extra boxes, like 100 1x1 squares. Are these for the ceiling, Mark? I mean, Bernard? My guess is they were probably the ones that you either glued up or stapled up, as opposed to. I was talking more of the false ceiling style, but a lot of it was the same, and yeah, they were made with asbestos. The only thing bad about that is if you go to make dust with it,
Yeah, you don't want to make
cutting
dust.
it or something, you don't want to be breathing that. Handling it's not going to bother you, trust me. I did more stuff with asbestos than anybody in this chat probably want to see. But when I was plumbing, we broke out whole asbestos walls and I never wore a mask. You know, it doesn't mean somebody else wouldn't get sick from it, but what you don't want to do is make the dust. He's talking about something else.
Characters rather than proto models. Yeah, that's what I mean by impressionistic. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. This area is supposed to give an impression, regardless of any specific geology, of Colorado rock and a train going through it. It's, you know.
A good example would be going on Disney's Caribbean or Pirates of the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. If you've ever been on that or seen the videos of that ride, nobody's going to say that looks like the Caribbean. But that's not the point. The point is to get you to feel like it might be that.
Right.
And that's all we're doing. It's the same thing as we're trying to make it feel like you're in that or you're looking at that area.
Yeah, I think I'm using the burnt sienna as one of my colors in addition to yellow ochre or yellow oxide.
I like burnt sienna. It gives a good muted rust color to the rocks. So if you've got any kind of iron ore in the rock and stuff, it gives a real good look for that.
To me, it's almost identical to all of the red dirt out here.
Oh yeah. And when you guys see, when he says red dirt out there, see the color of his shirt? That's pretty much the color of all the dirt.
It's a little darker than that.
Yeah. And it stains everything.
Yeah, one of my next, I don't know if it's the next Katy Project diorama video that's coming out. It's not going to be this week. It'll be next week. I've got the backdrop video is going to come out this week. I discuss red dirt and probably what you shouldn't do to pulverize it.
Don't put it in a blender.
Really?
You didn't put it in a blender,
So
did you?
don't steal stuff out of your wife's kitchen. Just don't do it, guys.
Really? Does it like dye it?
Oh, that red dirt out
Well,
there.
I mean, I know like this series of videos, the diorama, not a lot of people are watching them, and that's fine. But I'm not going to give it away. So, you know, if you want to find out what not to do, watch the video.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good advice. If you take something from the wife's kitchen to use, make sure you have permission.
Or just buy another one.
Yeah.
Well, you probably want to make sure it's not something that is kind of, I wouldn't say one off, but you can't just go to Walmart and get
Yeah, you don't want to
and
take
replace without her knowing.
you don't want to take one of the family heirlooms and use it on
Yes.
building.
Yeah,
project.
Steve's got it right. You know, you can tell Anoki because his white tennis shoes are stained red, and the bottom half of his white pickup truck is red too.
Yep.
So this red dirt is that bad, huh?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went down. I was at a fly-in out by Guthrie. Oh, hello. Out by Guthrie, and I decided to take a different road back to the fly-in from the town of Guthrie instead of going down the highway. And it was, unbeknownst to me, it was unpaved road. Well, it had rained the night before, and so it wasn't muddy, but it was damp. By the time I got back to the field, which was about 3 miles on that road, it took me 6 months to get all that off my black pickup truck.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's something else. It's got a lot of iron ore in it.
I've never seen red dirt. What is that?
That's the red dirt.
That's
Man,
dirt?
that's the gravel. You get it powdery, and it's even worse than that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a clay. I mean, you can absolutely turn this into a fine powder, right? But that's
Huh.
everywhere out here.
Yep.
Wow.
And there's also Cleachy, which I went ahead and had to go about 30 miles to find some good Cleachy. And that's what I'm probably going to use on the rest of the railroad. Is that
So you could probably like take that and use it for paint, right? That red dirt, turn it into a pigment. Grind it up. I bet
Yeah,
you,
you
probably
probably
could.
would definitely get some red water out of it that would stain for sure.
bet you the
Yeah, you
Indians.
could use it as a red wash.
Yeah,
It would work for that.
I bet you.
I have no doubt it would, because it
That's interesting.
works as a wash on everything else that crosses its path.
Yeah.
So if it's wet when you go across it, you're gonna have it on whatever it is it's going across the wet ground. Especially if there's no vegetation like grass or something like that. If you're out just where it's
So what
just
is
mainly,
the other stuff you're talking about, Dennis? Cleachy?
Cleachy?
Yeah, what is that?
You got one more minute.
Cleachy. It's another substance, mineral from the earth out there in Oklahoma. Cleachy. Never heard of that. Yeah, I mean, years ago, that's what they used to different dirts and stuff to make colors. That's Cleachy.
That's what I call Cleachy. I might not be 100% right, but that's from down the road about 30 miles, and then this is, you can see the difference.
Well, what is it? Is it like a dirt?
It's very similar. if Bill was here, Bill could tell us exactly probably what the difference between the two are, but
Yeah.
it's just a type of earth that's around here, because basically there's three different kinds in my area. Predominantly is the red dirt, and then you just have a ton of what I call below sand. It's just sand, and it's not fine enough to use as a base layer of earth on the layout, in my opinion, because it just doesn't represent powdered earth like you would want on a layout. It doesn't scale down correctly.
Right.
And then you got the cliche. So
Okay, well, that's our time, guys. In fact, we're over just a little bit.
That's everybody
Time
have
goes
a
by
good
when
week.
you're having fun. Fly fast when you're having fun. Well, everybody,
yeah,
thanks
I
for
didn't
being
even
here.
get to show off my Atlantic cable mine yet. We'll have to look at that next
You
week.
have to come back next week, see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be careful. Be careful with your red dirt. Have a good week.
Thanks, Jerry and Dennis, for being
Yeah.
here. Everybody in
See you
chat,
guys later.
have a great rest of your week and a good week. We'll see you next week.